Thanks for tuning in to the Drive On podcast, where we are focused on giving hope and strength to the entire military community. Whether you're a veteran, active duty, guard, reserve, or a family member, this podcast will share inspirational stories and resources that are useful to you. I'm your host, Scott Deluzio, and now let's get on with the show. Hey, everybody, welcome back to Drive On. I'm your host, Scott Deluzio, and today my guest is Joe Fortuno. Joe is a veteran who has made it his mission to help fellow veterans secure the VA disability benefits that they deserve. And with a wealth of personal experience and professional expertise, Joe brings invaluable insights into navigating the challenges of mental health, transitioning back into civilian life, and accessing VA healthcare and disability benefits. And we'll get more into that in just a minute. But first, I want to welcome Joe to the show. So, Joe, glad to have you here.
Thank you, Scott. Definitely an honor to be here.
Yeah, you bet. Um, Before we get into kind of the benefit side of things, can you tell the listeners a little bit about your experience, maybe transitioning from active duty in the regular army that you served in and the West Virginia National Guard back into civilian life?
Yeah, so I joined uh, activated back in I believe it was like May '99. So I did 8 years of active duty. Um and during active duty time, you get that the guard had a little stigma, that oh, they're just, they're lazy, they don't do anything, and they just
Sure,
1, 2 weeks a year. So I had that mentality while on active duty. But I wanted to do more after my 8 years, and like going to school and stuff like that. So that's what I did. I did transition from active duty to the West Virginia National Guard, so I can go to school. And yeah, it totally shocked me how great the National Guard is. Their knowledge, their expertise. And it's not just 1 week in a month for a lot of times.
right,
Hate to say it, but yeah, it is. They do that annual training and stuff, but there's times that you're gone more than just that one weekend. It could go 5 days, 6 days.
sure.
But yeah, it was a good transition. It gave me time to actually go to school and um, you know, get into the civilian workforce as well. So it's in a sense I was doing army part time instead, and I was more national. I was more focused on the civilian side.
I wonder, as you were talking, I was thinking about how a lot of times people transition from active duty and it's like a light switch. Like one day they're a
Yeah,
soldier and then the next day they're a civilian. And there's no real in between time. They're just done. Um, I wonder how much easier the transition might be for some folks, and you could probably talk to this because you've experienced it yourself, but how much easier that transition would be when they still have a little bit of the military experience, when they're doing it 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year type of thing, like the National Guard and reserves, versus just going cold turkey straight into the civilian world. I wonder if that might be easier for some people. I don't know.
yeah. I think it was an easier transition for me. Yeah, I still took my leave and everything
Mhm.
before I started doing drill days with the guard. Um, but you still have that knowledge, you still have that mindset. Leaving out of the military, I hear from a lot of friends that, like you said, go cold turkey. Um, and they miss it. They miss
Yeah.
camaraderie. They miss, a lot of things that involve the military, but it's not like they want to do it full time.
Sure.
So the guard was, is a good way for them to transition, do an extra couple years because you're going to be in active reserve anyway if you don't fill your contract. So
Right.
might as well, do the guard. It's easy transition. It's not a full-time thing.
Yeah.
And if you do want to make it full-time, then, they have those options for the guard as well.
They do. Right. That's absolutely right. I remember you were talking about how there's that stigma about the National Guard and
Oh yeah.
active duty. And I remember when I was in basic training, so I was in the National Guard, that's all I did. I wasn't ever, active duty soldier other than when, when we deployed, but still with the National Guard unit. But um, we're in basic training. So there was National Guard soldiers, there was reservists, there were active duty soldiers, all in the same basic training unit. And a couple of the guys who were going on active duty started like ragging on the guys who were going into the National Guard. It's like, dude, at
Yeah.
this point, we've done exactly the same thing. There's no difference between you and me right now.
Mhm.
So, give it a break. You're talking a big game, but I don't think you really know what you're talking about. So, um, were there any challenges that you faced in your transition getting from active duty into the National Guard?
There for me, there wasn't much,
Yeah,
it was more so just, get in touch with the recruiter. It's because they provided you certain options for what you
yeah,
can do in the guard. It's not like you had to stick with that same, MOS that you had while on active duty. And with the guard, it's crazy. I've talked to so many guard members that had many different MOSs. So it is a different ball game when you go into the guard
yeah.
because the amount of MOSs you can actually hold, is crazy. They'll
Yeah,
send you to
and
schools.
yeah, they will. That's one of the things I noticed, myself was, uh, I didn't even leave basic training, and I had school offers to me, like, they're like, "Yeah, your state, I guess, had, slots available. Do you wanna go?" And, I
Yep.
was like, "Holy crap, like, this is all like, I'm just starting here, like, can I at least get my
Yeah.
bearings here and figure out what it is that I'm doing and, like, where I wanna go with this?" But, yeah, you're right, there's a lot of opportunities, there's a lot of options for schools and other training, different MOSs if you choose to. I knew guys who, after we deployed to Afghanistan as infantrymen, they
Mhm.
moved on, they started working on helicopters and doing
Yep.
all sorts of different stuff, all still within the Guard, and so it was just, a matter of what opportunities were available for them. So, um,
That's
now a lot of
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, that's yeah, I was a combat engineer, while on active duty, and then I did sapper school, all that stuff on active duty. When I joined the guard, I had those options, whether I wanted to stick with, being a combat engineer or I can go to a different engineer field. I even went to a 12 whiskey school, which is, construction. So there were just so many options for me,
Yeah.
after I got out of active duty. I wasn't stuck.
And it's cool too because you can a lot of times use some of those experiences in the civilian world as well,
Right.
and I know, I mean, we were infantrymen, so there's not a whole big connection between infantry and civilian world, right? But uh, we had a good number of people who were either police officers or corrections or,
Right.
things like that who were in our unit. And so they were able to use some of the stuff that they learned in the army in their civilian job. But then we also had a makeup of so many different people from so many different backgrounds. We had, EMS workers. We had, construction. We had, a wide variety of people. Even other, more office type jobs like accountants and lawyers and stuff like that were in our unit, and we were able to utilize that expertise as well, when we were deployed. So we had, mechanics who could help diagnose a problem before the actual army mechanics came
Yep.
out, on our trucks and everything. So like that was super cool to have. And so, a lot of times, like you were saying, National Guard gets a bad rap, but you know,
Yeah.
we do have a lot of other expertise that we bring in, and it could be super useful when you're out in the field. So, um, I know a lot of folks. You had mentioned like the missing the camaraderie and things like
Yeah.
that when you get off of active duty. If you just go cold turkey, a lot of
Yeah.
folks deal with that type of stuff. Any struggles like that you might have dealt with? Anything that you might have felt like you needed to seek some help for, or anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah. I went through some health struggles, due to the deployments I had, with the with Iraq, they called it the Wild West back then, 03,
Yeah.
04 and all that. And there was a lot of things that occurred, during that time frame, and it's things that, you want to forget.
Mhm.
But, having that support system with, I still talk to a lot of my buddies that I deployed with. We have our own little chat groups now, and we still talk to each other. They have reunions. I haven't gone on one yet though. But it's good that they're still, keeping in touch with each other, and even without, any kind of army friends that, talk to, veterans still have the opportunity to, get with any kind of programs that are in the community.
Yeah.
VFW, all that stuff. I had a good support system, with friends. Um, you know, a lot of veterans they don't like talking about it, because they feel like they're bothering, or they're gonna be, they're taking up their time if they talk about it, and they want to
Yeah.
they don't want to feel like they're a burden to them. And so it's just that thought process, and eventually without that help, you do start sinking down,
Mhm.
and it can get worse. I had to battle through that and know that there is a support system out there, multiple ones, that I could use, to help me get back on track.
Yeah, and I guess it's really just, figuring out what support system that's out there is the one for you.
Right.
Is it going to counseling and therapy and talking to somebody about whatever it is that you're going through, or is it, having that, like you're talking about, those chat groups with your buddies from Iraq,
Yep.
um, just being able to, just talk with them and, you know, keep that camaraderie. I think that's a huge thing,
Yep.
is just being able to have a group of people that you're like, yeah, these are my people, and maybe you've lost touch with those people and you don't have a group like that, but there are VFW halls all over the place that
Mhm.
you can go and join. And yeah, sure, maybe you didn't serve with those people, but I guarantee you start talking to those people, you're gonna start to feel like you're at home pretty
Yeah.
quickly, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You bond through whatever whatever you went through. Either you bond through the suck that you that you went through, or you bond through the fun times that somebody else had, and when they went. So it's,
Yeah,
veteran community has so many outreach programs, and so that's what I love about it. It's close knit.
it is. Yeah, and I don't know if I've ever met any veterans who, like, once when you find out that each other are veterans, that they're just like, "Oh, well, the heck with this guy. I'm not gonna talk to him anymore. Like, I don't
Yeah.
wanna deal with him." Like, it's a pretty, like you said, a pretty close-knit community of people, and, you learn that somebody else is a veteran. It's like, yeah, maybe you're not gonna be best friends instantly with a person, but you can at least, through that common shared suck experience type thing,
Yeah.
uh, you have some sort of connection there, and you can at least strike up a conversation. And who knows where it goes from there, right? Um, so talking about your job now and this type of stuff that you did, I kind of alluded to it in the intro.
Mm.
Um, you help veterans navigate the VA system and get their disability benefits. What are some of the challenges that veterans face when they're applying for VA benefits, and what is it that you do to assist them in overcoming these obstacles?
Yeah, the VA is just pretty much it's like the unknown. You don't know, what is going to happen when your claim goes through. It's almost like it's some veterans think it just goes, you become a number and that's it. And then
Mhm.
it's like being ghosted by the VA because you don't hear from them for a while. And then, you're trying to figure out what's going on with it. So
Right.
what we do at Dils, we help navigate, that veteran through the complexities of filing their claim, helping understand like different terminologies the VA will just throw at them. Because I'm not gonna lie, I saw some, there's decisions that veterans get, but they will use so much legal jargon that it will confuse the veteran,
Mhm.
and a lot of acronyms. The military is big on acronyms. The VA is also just as big with acronyms,
Right.
and they'll use it all the time. So there's a lot of things that veterans get confused by just with how the VA words things, the complexities of it, being able just to navigate going online, on trying to figure out what's going on with their claim. But my advice to veterans is, and I'm telling, I tell my friends right now they're still in. I said, um, make sure you have your "I love me" folder. Make sure you get your record straight. Um, you know, evidence is big. I
Yeah,
mean, it's the VA uses so medical evidence, buddy statements, stuff like that. Those are big things that definitely can help out a veteran. And that's why I'm telling my friends now that they make sure they get everything recorded and keep everything on in your I love me folder.
yeah. I like how you said that, the "I love me" folder. I kinda laughed when you said that, but that's really what it is because you
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you gotta take care of yourself. I mean, if you're not taking care of
Yeah.
yourself and not getting your things documented and keeping the paperwork and everything. I know everything goes digital these days, but
Yeah.
whether it's a physical paper file or it's a digital file, whatever it is that you do with this information, um,
Mm,
keep it, make copies of it, back it up, have it in a safe location because um, your house burns down, all those
mm.
papers go away, right? You got to have
Yeah.
it in a place that is safe, secure. If it's a paper file, have it in a one of those fireproof safe kind of things, or
Mm,
you know something to make sure that you have that because without it down the line something comes up that you decide to apply for those disability benefits, you're gonna be out of luck if you don't have that paperwork, right?
oh yeah. I mean, It's just it's just the fact that like I said, the VA uses that, if you don't have that evidence, it's almost like what do they have to work with?
Yeah.
And so, with the VA, I think they used to be like within 5 years after your last active duty date, they allow you to get that, VA healthcare without having to pay that copay or anything.
Mhm.
Now they extended it to 10 years, and I'm telling my friends that now also, like, you know you have up 10 years from your last active duty day, get that treatment and get that diagnosis. That
Yeah.
every year that you wait, it gets harder. Just because you have to try to link it to your time in service.
Mhm. Yeah, and in some cases, there may be things that happen after the service that they
Mhm.
may say, "Well, you fell off a ladder, and so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's why your back's all jacked up and stuff." Like, that type of thing could happen too. So the more time that goes by, the more opportunities that something else might happen that they can use
Mhm.
to say, well, this is the reason why, and it's not because of your
Yeah.
service, right? So, put in those claims early,
Mhm.
and hopefully that works out for you. But unfortunately, sometimes things don't start bothering you until years down the line, and so you may end up waiting that long, just because when you first got out, maybe that injury that you had wasn't
Yeah.
really that bad, but it starts getting worse over time, and you may put in for disability because it really was connected to your service, but
Mhm.
it just didn't really start causing problems until years down the line. How do you work with people in those kind of situations, and how do you help them kind of navigate those situations where it has been a significant amount of time between their service and when the issues start rearing their heads?
So, with a lot of those things, like if they don't get a medical diagnosis or any treatments for so many years after, and there's nothing that's already service connected to, latch onto it and say, "Oh, it could
Mhm.
be secondary to this." Um, we would try to tell, a lot of veterans, at the firm is, make sure you, try to see if you can get some buddy statements.
Yeah.
Was there anyone witness to this event, that they can write something in your behalf? I've had to write buddy statements for quite a few friends of mine that, just didn't get treated after they left, after they got an active duty. So it's, if I was a witness to it, I'll write it. I will
Yeah.
tell exactly what I saw. And those are really helpful. They're great impact statements. You're
Mhm.
a witness thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Those buddy statements are, they're not exactly medical evidence.
Mhm.
It's not as good as that because seeing a doctor who puts that in your medical file and you have that documentation, like, yeah, on X date, this is what
Yeah.
happened, and this is a diagnosis, and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. But it's the next best thing, right? Maybe something at the time, maybe you couldn't go see a doctor. You're out on a mission and you're in combat. Like, you're
Mm.
not going to go, "Oh, time out. Let's go." Let's
Yeah.
go take me
Yeah.
to the doctor. Um, it's just not going to happen. In some cases.
And
Um,
quite so often, it just a lot of veterans don't want to get that treatment after they get out. When
yeah,
a lot in those post health risk assessments, they just like they pencil it, and it's like, no, no, I'm good here. I'm good here.
yeah.
Just because they don't want to wait any longer after they come back home. So it's sometimes we suggest getting a medical provider that that knows you, knows the treatments that you've done. If you have had some treatments afterwards, they could possibly write a medical opinion for you.
Mhm.
Even the firm offers independent medical examiners are contracted through our office that could possibly write one for you, depending on the medical evidence they have to work with.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, so that's the thing too, is it doesn't necessarily have to be um, an army medic or army doctor, or someone connected to the military who provides a diagnosis for these things. You can get that from any medical professional, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
there's like we have a book um, that talks about veterans disability. It has just a lot of frequently asked questions on there. We send those out to the clients as well. That way they can, take a look at it. A lot
Mhm.
of the things, a lot of the questions they may ask is actually in the book. Just, frequently asked questions like what is an appeal? How do I appeal things? And it's in that book that we have. So, if the client wants to, we'll send it and then we're also sending it to, the new case managers so that they're aware of a lot of the frequently asked questions. We even have a VA disability calculator. If you're just wondering, what do I need to do to get to that percentage? Like, what would the percentage pay? Or, what is it? What if claim a back condition and a knee condition? So on pipervets.com, we have a VA disability calculator they can also use. Like, if I got 20% for this, 50% for sleep apnea, where would my percentage be? And they
Mhm.
can kind of like, it's like having a goal, like I want to get to this, be able to take care of my family. If I can get to this part, I know where I need to go now because, the firm's navigator or somebody's navigating me through the process. I know the score I want to try to get to. This is what I need. This is the evidence I need to get to that.
Sure, sure. Now, you were talking about, like, having that goal and trying to figure out, like, how do I get to that certain percentage? Maybe I need that 70% or 50, whatever the number is, that their goal is that they're trying to get to. Um, is there any resources available that veterans can use to assess their eligibility and kind of understand what benefits are available to them based on the severity of the conditions that they're having?
Well, they can, we can actually do free consultations at the office as well. They just got to call, our main office will do a free consultation to determine whether or not they are going to be eligible based upon what they're just saying.
Mhm.
It's not like they have to submit evidence right then and there, but we kind of coach them like, okay, this is what we're going to need from you to get you to where you want to be.
Sure.
So
Okay.
they can easily go online and go to fightforvets.com and, just ask questions on there. There's it's 24-hour chat. Somebody will be there to speak with them, and that way we can give them a phone call. Just do a free consultation, no cost. We'll ask them, hey, what do you need? What do you have? And we'll guide you through
Okay.
what we can now actually help you with.
Great. Um, for anyone who's out there who they got this condition, it's been bugging them, and they know it's connected to their service. Maybe they have it
Mhm.
documented, and They know that they went and saw the doctor, you know, when they were in service. It's all squared away, or maybe it's not, and they know that they have some buddies that they can get to write a buddy statement.
Yeah.
Um, what's a good first step that they can take to getting those benefits, or applying for the benefits, I should say?
VA.gov, has a bunch of tools that, that a lot of veterans can go onto, for, submitting a claim. We can also submit claims for you, but gathering that evidence, like I said, it's very important, because you need something to work with, whether you
Yeah.
go through our office or go through VA.gov. They're going to want that evidence. How
Mhm.
is it related to service? And you get denials all the time. A lot of veterans can get denials. You'll see it on there. We can't find a link to your time in service. There was a diagnosis. We see it, but there's nothing showing how this diagnosis links back to that injury that happened. Um, and that's where you want to talk about how it's worsened since your service, and you want to make sure you can write your own statements, statement support claims, and submit
Mhm.
that. Like, how is it related to service? This is how. This is what happened. Here's the medical diagnosis. Here's my treatments that I've had. Here's even a buddy statement.
Yeah.
With that,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's a good first step. I think, collecting evidence, getting all
yeah,
that stuff together is definitely huge, like you said. Um, and some of it may take some time and effort to compile all of that information. The VA does do some legwork to help you out with
mhm,
gathering evidence, but it's always better if you have it up front and just
yeah,
submit it so they don't have to.
yeah,
Especially, more recently, they're pretty overwhelmed with a lot of claims, so they may miss
oh yeah,
something, you know. So that's not a commentary on, their work ethic or anything like that. It's just
yeah,
there's a lot to go through. So the easier you can make it for them, I think the better it is. Now, what about when folks get those denial letters and they come back, like you said, there's a lot of times there's legal jargon, there's acronyms, there's
yeah,
things that it's just confusing sometimes. What's a good first step when they get that denial? They know that this thing is service connected. It just they didn't obviously do a good enough job proving it to the VA. What's the next step that they could do to uh, kind of get that decision
yeah.
reversed?
So they definitely have to read that rating decision. That it'll state exactly the reasons for denial.
Hmm.
It'll even state on there what was considered favorable. What do they find that was favorable? Either a diagnosis, or they did see that you served in that time period. So that's it. Kind of gives you something to work with.
Sure.
Definitely, with a lot of these appeals, they only you have that 1 year window. Either you want to appeal it and get it sent up to the Board of Veterans Appeals, or you want to do a higher level review. You can even submit a supplemental with that new relevant evidence of support why you believe it is related to service. So there's different ways, but you definitely need to read that decision letter. That's going to give you the clues that you need to see what you need to help you get a service connected in the future.
Yeah, that was one thing that I was told a while back, is that if you do get the denial letter, um, read through it, and it's going to tell you pros and cons, the things that are in support of your claim, the things that are, in your favor, but it's also going to tell you all the things that are, um, the reasons that they denied the claim. And
Mhm.
so then it's almost like a fill in the blank. The way I think
Yeah.
of it is, it's like they give you the answer,
Yeah.
almost like Jeopardy. Like they give you like the opposite. Like this is what's wrong. Give me the
Yeah.
answer, and you just got to fill in that
Yeah.
blank. Um, and maybe it's something like you need that buddy
Mhm.
statement to tie it to your service because,
Yep.
it's like, okay, yeah, you have the medical diagnosis that, your back or your knees or your hips or
Yeah.
whatever are all messed up. um, but that diagnosis happened after your service, so now we need something to tie it to your service.
Mm,
What is that thing? And in some cases, this is before you get that denial, but in some cases, some conditions are you kind of get the benefit of the doubt. They have what's called the presumptive condition, right?
right, right.
That could be in your favor too, because
Yeah,
then you don't need to go through all the hoops of proving that it's connected to your service. They just kind
I
of
can
assume
assume
that
it.
it is, right? Yeah. So, um, are there any other resources or any other things that you might want to share with the audience that might be useful when it comes to applying for VA benefits or appealing or filing a supplemental claim or anything like that, or providing supplemental evidence, I should say, for a claim? Any other resources that are available, or any other tips or advice that you might want to offer?
So, what the veteran has access to is called their C file. Um, Other term for it is called the claims file. So it contains everything from the date that you raise your right hand, to everything that the VA is tracking currently, including private records or, VA records. Anything that you've done and submitted to the VA or even through the military is going to be in the C file. So a veteran can request that. Our office also requests that because what we do, we go through each and every page line by line just to see if there's anything in there that we can latch on to. Because sometimes it is hard to find that one little tidbit. Because with the VA, sometimes they say, "Oh well, we don't see that you actually served in that region," and we'll dig.
Mhm.
We'll dig to find if they were in that area. We'll look through their clothing records if we need to, just to see if there was something in there that shows like here's a unit that he was in this time frame. This unit is only in it was only in Iraq at this time frame, and this goes for that time that he was in. So we look for little things like that. CBOW is great because it contains everything. Um,
And where can
Everything
you
but
go to get the C file if people are interested in finding that?
you can request it through the VA.
Okay,
That's what we do. We request it through the Freedom of Information Act, and to get a copy of that. So
okay,
it can range between 300 and 15,000 pages, but the veteran can request that under the Freedom of Information Act because it's their own personal record.
sure, sure. Yeah, no, that's actually good information. I didn't know that that file even existed. So, yeah, I guess for folks who are interested, go research that and see if that might have
Yeah,
the information that you need to
yeah,
get that claim successfully submitted and approved. Because we don't all hang on to military records forever after our military service. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But if that file exists and it has just that one little piece of evidence, even something like a clothing record, like you said,
yeah.
that could be what you need just to tie. Yes, I was in this location on this date or this time period, anyways, and that might be something that you might need for that type of evidence. So, yeah, any little sliver of evidence that you can grab out of there, and like you said, that could be quite extensive as far as the paperwork goes. So, um, so that
And it can
that is a
miss.
good thing.
The VA can miss some things that are on the seatbelt because they dig through it. But it can be missed. So it's if they if you want to get a copy of it because the VA may have missed something that that's in there.
Mhm.
We've had clients ask us, we can send them a copy of their C file because when we request it, at times they'll send it to the client, but most often they'll send it to us, and that's what we do. We look through each and every page, and the client will want to get a copy of it also because he wants to do the digging himself as well.
Sure.
So there's a lot of information in there, especially, like I said, they can go all the way up to 15,000 pages. That includes, the doctor's notes that are scribbly and stuff like that. And, so those things are definitely looked at. Veteran can look at it and the VA can miss it.
Mhm.
It's human. It can be missed.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. It is. Like any other human, they're imperfect and they could miss things. So, again, like I said before, you're you got to fight for yourself.
Mhm.
If you want this, that's something you're going to have to put the time and effort into to make sure you get it, because other people aren't going to be eh, they're not gonna have the same vested interest as you do. It's ultimately your bank account that's gonna be impacted, not theirs. So,
Mhm.
um, you know, getting those benefits is only gonna benefit you, and your family. So, you're gonna have to get put some work in, to find some of this stuff sometimes. Other times it may be readily available and it may not be all that difficult to do, but sometimes you might need to do a little investigating, a little digging to get that stuff. So, awesome.
Don't
Yeah.
Yeah. It's daunting, and that's why, we offer that for the veterans.
Mhm.
That's where we look through it ourselves, and then it gets looked at over again by the operations manager. Everything gets looked at, once, twice over, just because we don't wanna miss it. It's part of what we call, like, client-centered focus. It's We're there because we wanna make sure that, the veteran gets the most of what he can get. If we miss something, that's on us because we want to make sure that we give that percentage back to that veteran, like,
Sure.
based on that contract, um, to serve in the service, that 1%. That's why I say, the 1% that serve, you wanna make sure that we give 100% back.
That's awesome. For the folks who are interested in maybe getting some assistance with their disability benefits and filing their claims and all that type of stuff, where can they go to get in touch with you guys and your organization? And where is it that well, first off, where are you located and where do you help clients from? Where are the location specific? Or are you nationwide?
We are definitely, we're nationwide, but we do have, free consultation. They can always, see if we're able to assist in that area.
Okay,
Um, they can go into the JNO's website or the fightforvets.com, and or they can just call us, toll free, 877-715-9037. That will get them to someone, that can do a free consultation for them. A lot of veterans, what they do is they go in the chat and they just submit their question, so that they can be called later on and, to see if they're able to assist, because we have clients nationwide. We had clients in Hawaii, Alaska, everywhere. So,
excellent. Well, excellent. Yeah, and I know there's some people out there who are, dealing with disability benefits and just banging their head against the wall, trying to
yeah,
figure it out and get through it all. But yeah, so I will have those links that you mentioned for both of those websites. I'll put the phone number in the show notes so folks can find that rather easily. As you're listening to the episode, you should be able to find it right there. Um, Again, if you guys are having issues with your benefits or you just don't know where to start, you're feeling overwhelmed because it can be overwhelming, reach out to somebody. There are people out there who can help, just like Joe and his team, and the folks who are out there. They like Joe said, he wants to get you 100% of what you deserve. So don't just sit there because that money is yours. It's just a matter of proving that it's yours, right? So, so yeah, that's great. Before we wrap this episode up, I always like to end episodes with a little bit of humor, and especially when I have another veteran on the show, um, having a little bit of humor where we can poke fun at other service members. I think it's always a good time, and usually puts a smile on people's faces when I say the name of the segment, which is it service connected? That's the name of the segment, and it's we just watch service members doing something stupid on a silly video, and then we get to laugh about it, and they'll probably use this as evidence in their disability application later on. So I'm going to share my
yeah.
screen real quick here, and we'll take a quick look. So right now, for the audio only listeners, I'm going to try to explain this as best as I can. But check it out on YouTube or X, Twitter, and uh, check it out. So right now, it looks like we got a couple soldiers standing at the back of a vehicle that the ramp is open, and that's all I can really see right now. So I'm just gonna play the video and see what happens. So we got a couple. Okay, we got one with like a baseball bat and we got a couple guys running out of the vehicle, followed by a raccoon. Man, guys, stop messing with the wildlife. They give you these briefings for a reason. They they tell you stop, don't mess with the wildlife, and you got it inside the vehicle with you. And there's like three guys in there. That it's not going to be happy. You're definitely going to get like scratched or bit or whatever raccoons do. I don't know. You're getting messed up. Put it that way. Um, yeah, I don't know. Would that if they got all torn up, they got like rabies or something from a raccoon. Gotta imagine that I don't know where that would fall under like the disability benefits, but they they'd probably have some case there, I would
Oh,
imagine,
yeah.
right?
I
Yeah.
I could see something being traumatized or, it's their, if they got bit, that could be a skin condition that could develop in the future, you never know.
Yeah.
Definitely get it recorded, if you got bit while in service so I'm not trash bandit, because there's, those look like a striker to me, but,
Yeah.
those that look we always keep a bunch of snacks in there, especially on long missions.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
can see why there would be, something in there probably rummaging through.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I actually jumped to the conclusion that they were messing with the wildlife, but the wildlife may have been messing with them and coming after their snacks and
Oh, yeah, there's
whatever
bogey
they may
bait.
have had in there.
A
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
bogey bait in there.
A ton of it. Yeah, they probably had it they probably took all the ammo out of the ammo cans and shoved
Yeah.
bogey bait in there instead. So, anyways, Joe, thank you again for taking the time to come on the show, sharing what you guys do, and also for the work that you do in helping veterans get the disability benefits, that they deserve. So thanks.
Thank you again for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the Drive On podcast. If you want to support the show, please check out Scott's book, Surviving Son, on Amazon. All of the sales from that book go directly back into this podcast and work to help veterans in need. You can also follow the Drive On podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts.